Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my full review of a couple of headphone cables from Marcos Custom Cables, and I want to apologize for this taking so long. It's been almost 3 months since I did my first impression of these cables. And if you've been following me, you know that I got hit by a bad case of Bell's palsy and lost all the muscle control on the right side of my face and had to take some time off. Well, anyway, my first impressions of these cables was my last video that I did before that happened. Just a couple days after shooting that video is when I got hit. And I had to take about 3 weeks off, both from shooting videos and from working, because for the first 3 weeks I couldn't even blink and had to spend most of my time with my eye taped shut so my eye wouldn't dry out. And so I got behind on my videos, I got behind on work, and it's just been a couple months of trying to catch up. And I still haven't recovered entirely from the Bell's palsy. I would say I'm maybe about, probably, I'm guessing 55-60% recovered, but I still don't have full muscle control on the right side of my face. So doing the best I can. Shot several videos since then, but it's a bit of a struggle, and my face muscles do get tired when I try to speak for a long time. So if I feel that I start slurring my words, I'll take a break and finish this video up after resting a little while. But anyway, these were loaned to me by Marcos Custom Cables for review, and they are out of Sydney, Australia. And these are the second to the top of the line cables from this company, and these they're all custom made to exactly what you want. And I was told that the cost of these would be in the neighborhood of $400 US for each of these cables. And before I get into, I'll give you a quick look at these. This one here has 3.5 millimeter connections at the headphone end, and this one here has 4-pin mini XLR connections at the headphone end. That's why 2 different cables were sent to me so I could try them with different headphones. But anyway, I'll give you a closer look at those in a few minutes and talk about them a little bit. But first, I just wanted to spend a minute and tell you how I feel about analog cables. And to be honest, I came into this trying to be open-minded about it, but I kind of lean towards the direction that if analog cables do sound different from each other, that the differences are very subtle. Okay, I've heard countless accounts of people saying that they changed cables on their headphones and there was just a huge night and day difference. I'm sorry, I've been reviewing for about 4.5 years now, and I don't buy into huge differences. I believe there could be small differences, subtle differences, but in most cases, being the administrator of a headphone group with 22,500 members, I see discussions every day concerning cables. And my observation has been that in probably 4 out of 5 cases where someone says they heard a significant difference by switching cables, the fact was, it turns out they went from a balanced cable, or from a single-ended cable to a balanced cable. Okay, so now you have the argument, was it the cable that made the difference, or was it using the balanced output of the amp that made the difference? So, but most of the time they give the credit to the cable and say the cable made a huge night and day difference, and not taking into account that they're using a different output from an amp. And my personal opinion is that if an amp was designed as balanced, it's almost always, or probably always going to sound better from its balanced output. You're using double the circuitry, you usually have double the voltage, at least double the wattage available, and because of using the balanced mode or the balanced output of the amp, you usually have a better signal to noise ratio and usually better stereo separation between the two channels. So it's been my experience that every balanced amp that I've reviewed, that it has sounded better and sometimes significantly better from the balanced output. So I discussed this with Marco before I even sent the cables, and told him that I've never really heard a significant difference between cables, comparing balanced cables to balanced cables or single-ended cables to single-ended cables, but he agreed to send them to me anyway, and I said I would give them a try. So anyway, when I did my first impressions video, I showed the cables, talked about the cables for a while, and expressed the fact that I was very impressed by the build quality and the materials, but at that point I had not compared them to any other cables, actually doing a sound comparison to see if there was a difference. So that was the point of my full review, to do that comparison, and that's what I did, and I will get into the details of that comparison in a few minutes. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the cables a little bit. And these are both 1.5 meters long, but you can get them at any length you want. They are made to your custom order. They both of these cables use the same connector at the amp end, and this is, I guess it's the pronounced ACO, and very nice connectors. These are 4-pin full-size XLR connectors, and they're made of, what are they made of? Got it written down in my notes. They're tellurium copper with a rhodium plating on the outside, and both of these cables use the same connections at the amp end. This one has 3.5 millimeter connections at the headphone end, and they are made by the same company, ACO, I guess it's pronounced. Same thing, tellurium copper with rhodium plating. Okay, the other cable, I requested one with 4-pin mini XLR connections, and like I said, it does use the same connection at the amp end, but these are made by a different company because apparently ACO doesn't make 4-pin mini XLRs, and these are made by, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right either, Furutech, or I guess it's Furutech. Anyway, but I'm very, very impressed by the quality of these cables. Well, I'll tell you more about them here. They both use they're hybrid, use a silver and copper-lit hybrid combination of wire. They use 22 gauge wire, and they have a medical grade PVC insulation, and each one of these cables uses 4 cores, and each core has 30 strands of wire in it. And because of that, they're very, very soft and flexible, and they don't kink, they don't hit. Well, I've got it tied in the knot here now, trying to show it to you. But they have no memory where, they don't get stiff or stay in any shape or anything. No noise when it rubs on itself. The covering is a 550 paracord, and these are both in camo, but they're a little bit different. This is a lighter camo, and this is a darker camo. And here, let me show you this one again. The splitter here, where you divide to each of the headphone cups, is made by Via Blue, and the solder used in the connections is also a Via Blue, and it is a silver solder. And I did want to mention that there is one cable made by Marco Custom Cables that is above this, and it's basically the same, but it uses 8 cores of wire instead of 4 cores. And I was told the price of that is approximately $600 US. So anyway, the first impression these made on me was just the build quality. I mean, just superb materials, and the build quality just seems to be outstanding. These are, I mean, without a doubt, these are the nicest looking, nicest feeling cables that I've used up to this point, and I've had some pretty nice cables. So, but the point of this review, the full review, was to actually find out, do they make an improvement in the sound? So, before I try to make that decision here, or, come up with an actual answer to that, I wanted to say, first tell you what equipment I used. And also, I kind of touched on this a few minutes ago. I didn't want to fall into the balance versus single-ended cables. I see it as a trap. And basically what I mean by that is I did not want to compare, these are both balanced cables. I did not want to compare these to any single-ended cables, because that puts, uses a different output from the amp and makes the amp a factor in my decision whether they change the sound or not. So I only used balanced cables in my comparison. Okay, first of all, as far as amps, I had 4 different balanced amps here to use while I had this cable to do my review. The first one was the Hi-Fi Man EF400 combination amp DAC. The second was the Topping A90D, also known as the A90 Discrete, and very nice, very clean, probably the best measuring headphone amp you can get. The FIO K9 Pro ESS version, another combination amp DAC that I just love that thing, and unfortunately had to send it back recently. But I did have a lot of time to use these cables and try them with that amp, and also the Audio GD Master 9, which is stacked with the Audio GD R8 MK2 R2R DAC. And as far as headphones, I had, I divided this into 2 parts. One would be the 3.5 millimeter connection cable, and I used primarily 2 headphones when testing or trying this cable. That would be the Hi-Fi Man Ananda Stealth and the Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth, both very clean, very detailed headphones, which should reveal any real differences to me. And then to test the cable here with the 4-pin mini XLRs, I used the ZMF Atrium headphone and the Kennerton Thror, which is their flagship open back headphone, and the Kennerton Ragnar, and that's a planar version, which is Kennerton's flagship closed back headphone. So basically used 5 very revealing headphones in my comparison of these cables to other cables. So I used 7 other cables in my comparison. So I compared these 2 to 7 others, and my 3 of those had 3.5 millimeter connections, so they were compared using the Hi-Fi Man headphones. And one of those was made by Venture Electronics. It has a 4.4 millimeter balanced connection at the amp end, and for that I used this adapter here, which goes from 4-pin XLR to 4.4 millimeter. So I was using the same output from my amp. The second cable was a Mesa cable. It's their copper with silver plating cable made for the 99 Classic. And that also has 4.4 millimeter connection. So once again, I use the same adapter. And then I used a Kennerton balance cable that had a 4.4 millimeter, or I'm sorry, a 4-pin XLR connection at the amp end. And then in my comparison of the cable with the 4-pin mini XLRs, I had 4 cables that I used in my comparison. And the first one was the APOS flow cable. And that also has a 4.4 millimeter connection at the amp end. So once again, use the adapter. Then the cable that came with the ZMF Atrium. And 2 Kennerton cables. One is the cable that came with the Ragnar planer, and the other is their, I don't know if it's their top of the line, but it is a premium cable, and it's made of copper lits, and I believe that cable sells for, I think, $295. So those are the 7 cables that I used in this comparison. Okay, before I actually tell you, did I hear a difference, I wanted to say that I know there's a flaw to my testing here. Okay, the ideal way to test 2 headphone cables would be to have 2 identical headphones, 2 identical amps hooked up to the same source, and then be able to play them both at the same time. Obviously volume matched and everything the same, and that way with 2 of the same amps and 2 of the same headphones, I'd be able to switch back and forth in a matter of a couple seconds. Put on one set, switch to the other, switch back and forth as many times as I want. Well, that would be the ideal way to compare 2 cables, but I don't have 2 identical headphones and I don't have 2 identical amps, so I couldn't do it that way. So this is where the flaw in my testing is. I have to actually switch cables to do the comparison. I have to use 1 amp, 1 headphone, and try 1 cable, switch to the other cable. The flaw, the problem with that, is like a 30-second delay. And some people claim that our memory of sound only lasts like 10 seconds. So I know there's a problem there. But I don't have 2 identical headphones and 2 identical amps, and they would have to be high-end, all of this equipment, to be able to do a comparison. So someone that does have a setup like that, probably someone that makes cables and sells cables, is probably going to have a setup where they have 2 identical headphones, 2 identical amps, and can compare the cables directly and quickly like that. I'm not set up that way. I don't have that, and I'm sure most reviewers don't. Other than testing cables, there would be no reason to have 2 identical headphones and 2 identical amps. So I went into this with a little bit of a handicap there, where I've got like a 30-second delay between switching cables and being able to compare them, and it's going to make it harder to find subtle differences, okay? So, did I hear a difference? What it comes down to, and I try to be as honest with my viewers and as honest with the companies that loan me equipment as I possibly can. If I'm not honest and tell you exactly what I feel, then I don't have any integrity as a viewer, and I wouldn't expect anybody to watch me. So, did I hear a difference? I'm not sure. I can't give you a definite answer, okay? At times, I think I heard a difference. The differences I think I heard at times I think that I heard a little bit better clarity, a little bit better detail. maybe a little bit more dynamic as far as, punch and slam in the bass. Maybe a little bit more sparkle in the treble. The problem is, even though I thought I heard that at times, I would switch cables and then I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I actually did. So basically what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that there wasn't a difference. I'm saying that if there was a difference, it was subtle enough that I can't be sure if I actually heard a difference. Okay, there's going to be thousands of electrical engineers out there that will say the cables make no difference. That they're going to argue that an analog cable, regardless of material, whatever, as long as there's nothing wrong with the cable, all cables are going to sound the same. And I've got a little bit of electrical experience, and I've kind of leaned that way with my thoughts. But I try to be open-minded with my reviews, because there's a whole lot of people out there that are going to tell you that cables do sound different. Some will tell you they sound significantly different or even drastically different. Okay, I'm being honest with you. I don't hear a large difference. I don't hear a significant difference. I'm not saying there is no difference, okay? It's very possible that because of my 30-second delay between cables, by the time I switch cables, that there's subtle differences that I'm not hearing, okay? Like I said, my testing method isn't perfect, okay? Another factor, I'm 59 years old, okay? I know I can't hear above 15,000 hertz. And anyone my age that tells you they can, I think they're delusional. I've heard people my age say that they could hear over 20,000 hertz. I don't buy that. Anyway, in fact, my hearing probably starts rolling off above 12,000 hertz. So it's very possible that there is a difference, but that difference is up at a frequency that is beyond my hearing, and I'm not really noticing it. At times I thought there was a little bit more sparkle in the higher end cables compared to the cheaper cables in my review. But like I said, I'm not sure. It's not obvious enough to me that I can say for sure I hear a difference. Okay? The other thing is my equipment I consider to be good. It's fairly high end, but it's not the ultimate in high end. Excuse me just a second. I mean, even though I'm using very good equipment in my review, there's equipment out there that's even higher end than what I'm using. So maybe my equipment isn't revealing enough to really show a difference. I don't know. Like I said, so, the bottom line is, I'm not saying there's not a difference in the sound. I'm just saying that if there is a difference, it's too small for me to be sure I'm really hearing it. At times I think I'm hearing it, but like I said, by the time I switch cables 30 seconds later, I'm not sure anymore if there was really a difference. But the fact is, even if there isn't a difference, at least not to me, I'm very impressed with these cables, and I've been using them almost every day. Almost every time I listen, I'm using these cables. They're extremely well built. The materials are beautiful. They're very, very nice cables. So, do they make a significant difference in the sound? Comparing balanced cables to balanced cables, to me, they don't make a significant difference in the sound. Yes, if I compare a balanced cable to a single-ended cable, I definitely hear a difference, but I believe the largest part of that difference is coming from the amp using the balanced output compared to the single-ended output. So, That's it. That's bottom line. Very nice cables, very well built. They're beautiful. I love them, but I cannot tell you for sure or definitely that they do improve the sound. But like I said, maybe it's just me, you know. Maybe the differences are beyond my hearing, beyond my equipment, or I would need a better setup of comparing cables directly, you know, two headphones identical, two amps identical. Maybe that's what it would take. Maybe if I could do that, maybe I would be able to tell you I hear a significant difference, but I don't have that setup. So that's it, bottom line. Very nice cables, but if you're looking for a significant difference in sound, I don't know. You might hear it, I don't. So that's it, but they are great cables. You know, like I said, the nicest cables I've ever used in my 4.5 years of reviewing. So I'm just going to leave it at that and let you make the decision. And I know I'm going to have people on both sides. I'm going to have people telling me that I don't hear a difference because there is no difference. And then I'm going to have people telling me that I'm too old to be doing reviews if I can't hear the difference, or my hearing isn't good enough, or my equipment isn't good enough, you know, whatever. And I'm sure I'm going to get some dislikes from both crowds in this video, but I'm just trying to be honest with you and give the most honest review I can. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. You're all welcome to join us at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. It's up to 22,500 members. And once again, thanks for watching my video.